And I will render unto Babylon and to all the inhabitants of Chaldea all their evil that they have done in Zion in your sight, saith Yahweh. Behold, I am against thee, O destroying mountain, saith Yahweh, which destroyest all the earth. And I will stretch out mine hand upon thee, and roll thee down from the rocks, and will make thee a burnt mountain. And they shall not take of thee a stone for a corner, nor a stone for foundations, but thou shalt be desolate forever, saith Yahweh. Set ye up a standard in the land, blow the trumpet among the nations, prepare the nations against her, call together against her the kingdoms of Ararat, Mini, and Ashkenaz, appoint a captain against her, cause the horses to come up as the rough caterpillars. Prepare against her the nations with the kings of the Medes, the captains thereof, and all the rulers thereof, and all the land of his dominion. And the land shall tremble and sorrow, for every purpose of Yahweh shall be performed against Babylon, to make the land of Babylon a desolation without an inhabitant.
So moving closer, Washington is openly discussing regime pressure, and Iran is warning of retaliation as well.
China is no longer sitting quietly on the sidelines because it knows that it can't afford to lose any more of its oil and gas suppliers to the lawless military actions of the Israeli and US governments, which together have stupidly pushed the Chinese military juggernaut into a metaphorical corner, making military confrontation inevitable in the near future as a more assertive Beijing shows a willingness to confront Israel on diplomatic terrain today.
China is calling on Israel to halt its military strikes on Iran, warning of serious consequences if tensions continue to escalate. In a rare rebuke at the UN Security Council, Beijing condemned what it calls violations of Iranian sovereignty. Following Israel's Operation Rising Lion, a wave of preemptive strikes on Iranian nuclear and military sites, with retaliatory strikes already hitting Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, the risk of a broader Middle East conflict is rising. This may derail diplomatic efforts and strain global energy markets. Full analysis in the description. China is calling on Israel to halt its military strikes on Iran, warning of serious consequences if tensions continue to escalate. In a rare rebuke at the UN Security Council, Beijing condemned what it calls violations of Iranian sovereignty. Following Israel's Operation Rising Lion, a wave of preemptive strikes on Iranian nuclear and military sites, with retaliatory strikes already hitting Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, the risk of a broader Middle East conflict is rising. This may derail diplomatic efforts and strain global energy markets.
It's for this reason Zionist-controlled media outlets are sounding the alarm for a likely war against China. But on this occasion, the US and Israel have genuine reasons to be concerned, given Beijing is using grey zone tactics to confront the United States and its allies in the Western Pacific. This animation by the New York Times shows how China has quietly mobilized thousands of fishing boats in recent weeks to form massive floating barriers of at least 200 miles long, showing a new level of coordination that gives Beijing more ways to threaten and intimidate US allies, while cutting off or restricting their access to vital shipping and trade routes. Now, we aren't talking about your typical run-of-the-mill fishing boat here. We are talking about a key component of China's maritime militia that operates as a third sea force alongside the Navy and Coast Guard, blending civilian appearance with military function to project power, harass foreign vessels in disputed waters, conduct grey zone operations, and practice large-scale maneuvers for potential conflicts, often using dual-purpose vessels with military features, including 50-cal machine guns, water cannons, and reinforced hulls.
Everything suggesting peaceful fishing fleet. Reality, armed paramilitary force. Maritime militia, each vessel, reinforced hull, military communications, hidden weapon systems, crew, former PLA Navy personnel, military trained, combat experienced. Orders from Beijing: harass American destroyer, interfere with operations, create dangerous situations, force course alterations, demonstrate Chinese control South China Sea. Mission: gray zone warfare, below military conflict threshold, above peaceful operations, strategic ambiguity, plausible deniability.
Confrontation in the Middle East and confrontation in the Western Pacific. Beijing knows that the United States can't fight effectively on two fronts so far away from home, whereas China has already made the South China Sea near impenetrable for US forces, as evident in a number of recent US war games, which consistently show the United States suffering significant losses and even defeat in a potential conflict with China over Taiwan, due to China's advanced missile systems, overwhelming numbers of short-range missiles, and China's ability to quickly inflict catastrophic damage on US aircraft carriers and forces before US air power can fully engage.
A war game from the Center for Strategic and International Studies begins with a Chinese missile barrage against Taiwan's military in 2026, destroying much of its air force and navy, followed by an amphibious invasion across the Taiwan Strait. Taiwanese forces fight back using advanced U.S. weaponry, Patriot missiles for air defense, anti-ship missiles and torpedoes for sea defense, and its ground forces to defend the beachheads.
Whatever the Taiwanese are going to fight the war with, they have to have that when the war begins.
In every scenario, China landed forces on Taiwan. The war game assesses that the U.S. loses 10 to 20 combat ships, including 2 aircraft carriers and 200 to 400 military aircraft. In 3 weeks of fighting, the U.S. suffers more than 3,000 troops killed in action. That's about half of what the U.S. suffered in Iraq and Afghanistan over 2 decades. America's global position is damaged for years.
A single miscalculation here or a poorly executed gamble there will bring a catastrophic war to the region, constituting a sobering reality given threats, encounters, and near misses between the two superpowers occur on a near daily basis.
Just into CNN, U.S. defense officials releasing this video. Take a look. This is a Chinese fighter jet coming within 10 feet of a U.S. B-52 bomber that was flying over the South China Sea. So, Natasha, what more are you hearing from officials on this?
Well, Boris, this was a really close call, and it's something that U.S. defense officials say is happening with increasing regularity over the South China Sea as Chinese pilots take what they have called aggressive and coercive maneuvers against U.S. aircraft that are flying in international airspace in that area.
Israel, which has become drunk and delusional over its modest military power and radicalized by the biblical story of David versus Goliath, is now threatening the Goliath that is China, prompting this fierce response from the Chinese government.
If you want to have war, you will get war. If you want to destroy China, you will be destroyed. If you want to impose nuclear war on China, you will be wiped out by nuclear war. This is very serious. China's policy
from the Chinese government.
If you want to have war, you will get war. If you want to destroy China, you will be destroyed. If you want to impose nuclear war on China, you will be wiped out by nuclear war. This is very serious. China's policy is very clear. China will not fire the first shot, but China will not allow you to fire the second shot.
Zionists and American aggression and arrogance has literally kicked over a Chinese hornet's nest, with Beijing ready to abandon its long-standing policy of rejecting foreign military intervention. If or when Israel and or the United States strike Beijing's ally in Iran again, then Tel Aviv and Washington, D.C. should expect vicious retaliation from the Chinese military superpower, one that may very well bring about a sudden end to American empire and the Greater Israel Project, which means
Barakati Yahweh, Barakati Yahweh Shai, Barakati Yahweh, Barakati Yahweh Shai, Barakati Yahweh, Barakati Yahweh Shai, Barakati Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Ba, Recha HaKodash, Kol Thapa Arath, Hawad Wahaloyim, Ratwatham Yatla, Allah Hayanawa, Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Ba, Recha HaKodash. And what I just said in the Lashon Kodash being the ancient Paleo-Hebrew, or in other words, the true biblical Hebrew for holy tongue or language. And what I just said is all glory, honor, and praises abundantly and continuously to our power, Yahweh, the true name of our Heavenly Father, who the world ignorantly and incorrectly calls God, and the name of His only begotten Son, our Savior, our Messiah, our Deliverer, Yahweh Shai, HaMashiach, who the world ignorantly and incorrectly calls Jesus Christ, in, or in other words, through the Holy Spirit. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Much peace, love, and respect to the brothers teaching and pushing this truth out the four corners of the earth, to the hopeful elect, the 144,000 and the 1/3, as well as the rest of the elect scattered abroad amongst the heathen nations to the four corners of the earth, east, north, south, and west. To you I say, Shalom. This is your brother Ra'ib Tazadakwa coming back at you again, all through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, with another lesson. Yahweh Ratazah, Yahweh willing, is going to be edifying and encouraging for you, Achim, brothers, and any Achwath, sisters, that may be listening and or watching. Now, first thing I'm going to say is that this isn't in transit. I am on the road, so if there's any pauses, hesitations, or delays, you know why. And I want to go ahead and say that I do appreciate your patience and understanding in that regard. And I want to say Thawada, which is the ancient Paleo-Hebrew for thank you. I say Thawada in advance. The second thing I'm going to say is that this is part 11 in an ongoing lesson series going into the rapid pace of the fulfillment of end-time biblical prophecy. and the rapidly approaching end of the fulfillment of all end-time biblical prophecy, which will be culminating in two simultaneous major prophecies being fulfilled. The latter of the two, I don't want to say the latter, I say latter because I'm going to mention it second, but they're simultaneous. So the latter of the two, which I'm going to mention, being the greater of the two, because it's the prophecy of all prophecies, which is the return of Adawanawa, our Lord, Habashainawa, our deliverer, all right, our Messiah, our Savior, our deliverer, Yahushua Mashiach. And simultaneous with his return, which is the main prophecy, the prophecy of all prophecies, simultaneous with his return is the thermonuclear destruction, okay? And that's the reason why our Father Yahweh, Abanawa, our Father Yahweh, referred to America, which is Babylon the Great, as a destroying mountain, but then he said he's going to make it a burnt mountain, because that's referring to the thermonuclear destruction. All right. And, you know, just getting situated on the road here. Bear with me one brief second. Okay. Bear with me 1 second here. 1 second. Yeah. So, but yeah, that's the reason why he referred to it as a burnt mountain. Okay. But all of that we were reading over there, that's talking about America, Babylon the Great. America. Okay. Now, I'm also going to give the fair use disclaimer. Fair use is allowed under U.S. law for educational, commentary, criticism purposes, and the like. That's, of course, what we're using this clip for. I'm not profiting from it in any way, shape, fashion, or form. Matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and give credit to the originator of the material right now. And China vows, the title, China vows to, quote unquote, wipe out Israel, meaning the nation state, all right, of Israel, if Iran attacked and destroyed. Okay, China, which though China is the biblical Moabites, vows to, quote unquote, wipe out Israel, okay, the nation state of Israel, if Iran attacked and destroyed, not to be confused with the actual nation of Israel. That's why I emphasize the nation state, okay? I should probably put the emphasis on state, the nation state of Israel, which is not to be confused with the actual nation of Israel, okay? Because the actual nation of Israel is yet this day, we are yet this day in the lands of our captivities, okay? And so the people over there in the land today, they are the nation state, and they're actually a whole different nation of people. All right, they're actually the biblical Edomites. Okay, actually not the whole nation, but the lead tribe. Every nation has tribes, and that includes the wicked, the Edomites, and their lead tribe, their head tribe, is over there in the land of Israel, claiming to be us. Very poorly, because a lot of people, anybody paying attention knows that they're not them. They tell you that they're not the real people. They tell you that they have no ties to the true biblical Israelites. Okay, some of them will say they do, but the scholars, the ones who are experts, the ones that study it, they'll tell you that they don't. For example, like one of their most well-respected scholars, basically he's world-renowned, is Noam Chomsky, and he'll tell you, and there's plenty of videos of him saying this on YouTube and the internet, of him telling you that they go back to the Caucasus Mountains. Okay. All right, their ancestors go back to the Caucasus Mountains, which makes them what? Caucasians. Well, wait a minute. Aren't the so-called white people around the world also called Caucasians? Yeah, because they're Edomites too. All right. So anyway, generally speaking, they are. Not in all cases, but in most cases. So China vows to, quote unquote, wipe out Israel, the nation state of Israel, if Iran attacked and destroyed. And the YouTube page here is the C.J. Werleman Show. The C.J. Werleman Show. So fair use notice is given, fair use is allowed, fair use notice is given. All right. And so he brought out a lot of good information. He put various different clips in there from other mainstream media sources, and there was a lot of good information. He was hitting on some important stuff. Okay. So this is part 11 in an ongoing lesson series. You know, where the thumbnail is actually part of the title. Okay, the thumbnail says, we interrupt this program due to, and then you get the actual written title, End time biblical prophecies and the end of the world. And that is literally the end of the world, meaning this age, meaning this kingdom, meaning not the planet, the earth abideth forever, as it is written in the book of Ecclesiastes, not the planet, not the world. The word world has multiple meanings, and not the world as in the planet. Okay, the end of this world as in this age, this kingdom. Okay, everything that pertains to how the world currently operates. Okay, and in the process of bringing the end of the world, the vast majority of the world population is about to get wiped out. Okay, they're gonna have to start over. They're gonna have to go back. They're gonna have to be recycled. Okay, and that's literally and metaphorically. Okay, they're gonna be recycled. The clay jars that they're in now are gonna get returned to the dirt, and they're gonna have to come back again and get new ones. And when they do, it's going to be a whole hell of a lot of hell and suffering and misery and pain to pay. That's the controversy of Zion. We're not getting into that right now. Okay, so now let's just touch on this Jeremiah 51, because he brought out a lot of stuff, and now we're bringing out how many analysts will tell you that the world is a tripolar system right now. Okay, it used to be bipolar with Russia and America. But then Russia fell, and it was considered to be a unipolar. And then now Russia's back. Now it's bipolar again. But wait a minute. Now you got a new player on the scene, which is China. And you have emerging powers like North Korea. North Korea has a growing nuclear weapon arsenal. And they got powerful friends like China and like Russia. Matter of fact, they consider Russia, North Korea, and China and Iran to all be the new quote unquote axis of evil. they got the most wicked labeling someone else as the axis of evil. They got the most evil labeling others the axis of evil, which they're evil too. But the most evil is America, Babylon the Great in the West. Okay? And you know, that's what they do, man. It's blame shifting, it's projection, it's distraction, it's deflection. They're masters at it. Masters at it, man. Masterfully do they do these things. So they being the most evil, the most wicked, they slap that label on because listen, what does the word devil mean? Okay, you look it up. It is a Greek word diabolos. And what does it literally mean? It means slanderer, and that's what they do. Now they've done it to the Israelites, they've done it to us, the Israelites, to the highest degree, the worst and the longest. But they do not hesitate to do it to any and all. Okay, they are what's the phrase I'm looking for? They are what's the phrase I'm looking for? Free, not free will. What's the phrase I'm looking for? They are I can't remember how the phrase goes, but basically they're free and open and liberal with their slander. Okay, they're willing to slander anyone and everyone. Okay, but their number one primary target is us, the Israelites, and they're still doing it to us. They slander nonstop. Okay, and they slandered us into the ground, and that's literally what the word devil means: slanderer, false accuser, calumniator. Tying in the Revelation the 12th chapter, the accuser of thy brethren is cast down. That's talking about the biblical Edomites. And who is his brother? Spiritual demon Satan doesn't have a brother in that regard, man. He's talking about a flesh and blood brother. Okay, and who's the flesh and blood brother of Esau, the forefather of the biblical Edomites? Who's the flesh and blood brother of the biblical Edomites today? All of them, the whole nation. Okay, well, that would be Jacob. Name later changed to Israel. The Israelites, us, and that's what they do. Okay, so that's what they do. So they're slandering them, but they have North Korea has powerful friends, and they're increasing in might themselves. Okay, and so when we come to this Jeremiah 51, before we continue on in Joel the 2nd chapter, okay, I opened up. We're gonna just touch on this because we're gonna get into that Joel 2, run into the Joel 3, and we're going to Revelation 14. That's where we're at right now. Okay, Verses 19 through 20, especially 20 through 23, that's getting into us in our God King estate. Okay, that's getting into the Israelite men, us, the elect Israelite men, once we're restored and returned to our God-like estate. All right, I don't want to call it God-like because we will be gods, and into our God King estate, nothing like about it. Okay, and that's after our deliverance and salvation, and you can read it, and it's bloody, and it's brutal, and it's vicious, and it's comprehensive, meaning it's going to be, everybody's going to be getting it. Okay, because you're all guilty, and talking about you heathen. Oh. And some of the wicked of our people will be down here still too, and we're going to take them out too, because the nation of Israel has to be purged of the rebels, and then they'll come back and they'll be in their right mind. And I will render unto Babylon, that's America, and to all the inhabitants of Chaldea, that's also America. The modern day Chaldeans are the Americans. Babylon is America. That's the same place, the same people called by two different names. And you get the same idea over here in Jeremiah 50 and 45, which ties very much into what he was just talking about. Okay, because that's all because of, like the clip that I played in last night's part, Iran recognizes that the Israelis are drawing America into this war. And so that's why we got this last night. Therefore, hear the counsel of Yahweh that he have taken against Babylon. I told you that's America. And his purposes that he have purposed against the land of the Chaldeans. Not a different place. This is not two groups of people. This is not two locations. This is one location. Okay? This is America, Babylon the Great, which is spiritually Chaldea. Surely the least of the flock. That's the biblical Amalekites, the lead tribe of Esau, Edom, over there in the land of Israel, claiming to be us, but not very well. Okay, that's the least of the flock. The flock being, that's the least. The flock being America. Slacking, not the flock being America. The flock being the Edomites. The least of the flock, least in number, and last in conquering the land that they're in. That's how they're the least and the last. Least of the flock shall draw them out. Like the dude said, the Iranian foreign minister. He said, it's clear to us that certain parties are intent on drawing out, I think he said pulling out, America into this war. Okay, well who's he talking about, man? Who's wanting to go to war with them? Israel. That's it. So he clearly talking about Israel. All attention is Iran and Israel, Iran and Israel, Iran and Israel, Iran and Israel. I'm talking about pertaining to Iran, that is, right? So when he said that, he's talking about Israel. Of course, everybody knows it. No need to be specific. Everybody knows. Okay? And so it says here, the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely it shall make their habitation desolate with them. That's how it's going to end. That's the scriptures. But I came here to show you that Babylon and the land of Chaldeans is the same place. So when we go back over to here, and it says, okay, and I will render unto Babylon, and I'm just dealing with some traffic that wants to be around me for some reason, okay, and let me just deal with them and lose them so I can focus on the lesson. Just picking up a little bit of speed to lose them. All right, and yeah, so when it says Babylon in verse 24, in the land of the Chaldeans, inhabitants of Chaldea, that means the people that are living in the land of Chaldea, which are you Americans, you Babylonians, you Egyptians, you Sodomites, you Gomorrahites, or however you say that. Okay? Those that dwell in the land of America, Babylon the Great. That's what it's talking about in code. And if you don't understand the code, if you don't have the super secret decoder ring, all right, metaphorically referring to the Holy Spirit, then you don't understand that. But whether you understand it or not, that's what it's talking about. And the Most High, our Father Yahweh, says he's against you. Oh, but wait a minute, I wanted to point out one other part. He said he's going to render unto you, he's going to pay you back for everything you've done to us, and he's going to do it in our sight. So we're going to watch. We're going to watch our daddy get you. Yeah. Behold, and he says he's against you. O destroying mountain. O destroying kingdom. What kingdom on the face of the planet of the earth is the one going around destroying others all the goddamn time? You know it's America, Babylon the Great, right? But America, Babylon the Great is the capital city of the Edomite kingdom. Okay, which the Edomite kingdom is the revived Roman Empire, and it's worldwide, but the capital city is America, Babylon the Great. Okay, it's talking about on the highest level, America, Babylon the Great. Okay, and I will stretch out mine hand upon thee and roll thee down from the rocks and will make thee a burnt mountain. Why burnt mountain? Why not wet? Okay, because the world was destroyed by water in the first flood, and the first death. The second death is by fire, because the Most High is going to make it rain thermonuclear missiles, warheads, hundreds of millions of them. Revelation the 9th chapter, hundreds of millions. Did you hear me? Hundreds of millions of nuclear warheads going to rain down. 200 million. Revelation 9. Going to rain down on America, Babylon the Great. And what do you get? What do you get when it rains? Well, you get puddles. What if it rains more? Then you get ponds. What if it rains more? Then you get what? Lakes. So when it rains down those hundreds of millions of thermonuclear warheads, you're going to get a lake of fire, which is what John called it on the Isle of Patmos when he saw it, because he saw it from an aerial view, which is where we're going to see it from. And when he saw it from that aerial view and he's looking down from way up in the sky, way up, when he looked down and saw it, it looked like a lake of fire. Okay, and that's why he called it that. Okay, that's why it's referred to here as a burnt mountain, meaning a burnt kingdom, because that's how it's going down. And this is all just going into how complete and total and utter the destruction is going to be. Verse 27 is going into some of the examples of the kings that are going to be rising up against you, and that would include the king of Moab. Okay, which they're now a superpower. Okay, an emerging they have emerged. Okay, they still understand the dangerous nature of the veteran superpower, which is America, Babylon the Great. But they don't have to take no shit. They don't have to back down. They can talk back. They can stand firm. Okay, all right. Now who knows? I'm thinking that if it was just head to head, straight up, just America versus just China, I'm going to go ahead and give the edge to America, Babylon the Great, because the Edomites are blessed with the sword, and they have that deception. Okay, Moab can be deceptive too, but that's not his nature, though. Not like that anyway. So he can be deceptive too, and he's learned from Esau, but it's Esau's nature. It's in his blood to be a serpent, a snake, a deceiver. Okay, and he's blessed with the sword, right? So, but if America, Babylon the Great is going to go over into Moab's backyard, with Moab being a new superpower, a fresh young superpower, and now now America, Babylon the Great is going to go over into Moab's backyard in their waters, and they have to project their power all the way over on the other side of the world. It takes a lot of logistics. It takes a lot of money. It takes a lot to project your power all the way over onto the other side of the earth. Well, then that kind of levels the playing field a bit more, and that's the reason why all the war games are showing that America gets its ass handed to it. Not that America would get defeated and taken over, this, that, and another. I'm talking about if it was a straight up war, kind of like on equal footings or at an equal distance. Not that that's the case. It's just that America would lose that war because they have to project power way on the other side of the earth. That it takes a lot to do that. Resources, logistics, all kinds of things. See? But those war games are missing a few things. The things that those war games don't take into account is the tricks up Esau's sleeves. But see, even when you throw in those tricks and you take into account the X factor and the things that are unknown, the aces up Esau's sleeves, none of that's going to matter, because the Heavenly Father is against thee, O destroying mountain. He's going to roll you down and make you a burnt mountain. So nothing that Esau is going to do is going to work. Oh, and by the way, all the other heathen nations, they getting destroyed too. Not in the same manner, but they getting destroyed too. Okay, I beheld till the thrones were cast down. Daniel the 7th chapter. What thrones? All of them. All of what? All the thrones of the heathen nations. They're all going down. All of them. All of them. Okay? And the land shall tremble and sorrow, talking specifically about America, Babylon the Great, for every purpose of Yahweh shall be every shall be performed against Babylon. That's America. To make the land of Babylon, what's the Heavenly Father's purpose against Babylon? To make it a desolation. Ezekiel the 35th chapter, without an inhabitant. Never, ever again. Isaiah the 13th chapter, the end of the chapter. Isaiah, is that 24? Or is that 34? I think it's 24. All right, I'm not going to get it going down the road, but I think it's 24. Okay, might be 34 though. And then also Revelation 18. It might be both. Okay, all talking about this place being a virtual desert for all eternity after the fire eventually goes out due to lack of fuel. When it says that a fire not quenched, that doesn't mean that the fire never goes out. Not quenched. If something's not quenched, that doesn't mean it's going to burn forever. Okay, it means you can't put it out. The only way for it to go out is for it to go out on its own. That's an unquenchable fire. It cannot be quenched. Okay, and once it does eventually go out due to lack of fuel, it's going to be a virtual desert for all of eternity. And then you can read about that in those precepts I just gave you. All right, and without inhabitant, never ever again will anybody live here. Revelation 18 chapter goes into a lot of detail on that. Okay, let me see, is it Revelation? Yeah, and Isaiah, all of them. Okay, you can read them. Okay, so now let's get into Joel 2. Okay, because it's not just China, all right? Oh, wait a minute. I wanted to show you something else here real quick before we come off of this. Okay, it talks about, in verse 28, prepare against her the nations, all of them, with the kings of the Medes. The modern day Medes, prophetically speaking, is Russia. They're the ringleader against, they're corralling the troops and also protecting, being a guard to the smaller ones. The smaller ones that America, Babylon the Great would pick off if one by one, if Russia wasn't there to stand guard. That's Ezekiel 38th chapter. Okay? And so that's Russia standing guard and corralling the troops and leading them in a charge against America, Babylon the Great. That's why it says, with the kings of the Medes. That's Russia. God give me God. Okay? So now let's go over to Joel 2. Bear with me, like I said, in transit. And I'm about to take an exit here. Okay, we've already gotten into Joel 2. Yes, we were in this quite a bit. I don't know, 4 or 5 parts ago. Okay, we got this whole, I think we got down to 11. And then we went and got some more too, down south. And we're going to get some more now. All right. Okay, yeah, we went down to 11. And then we dropped down and we got some more down here. Yeah, we actually kept going. We got 12 down to 17, 18, 17. Yeah. And now we're going to get a little bit more. We're kind of starting to get close to getting this whole chapter. All right. And yeah, we touched on 18 and 19 too, because that's the deliverance and salvation of who our Father Yahweh refers to as his people. And we all know, you know, don't act like you don't know. His people is Israel. That's us. It's not everybody. Everybody knows that the people of our Father Yahweh is the Israelites. But what you may not know is that the Israelites, that's us. Okay? The so-called blacks, so-called Latinos, Hispanics, so-called Native Americans and Seminole Indians, as well as any and all whose lineage, heritage, and bloodline through their fathers' bloodlines, because that's what it's truly about, through their fathers, goes back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We are the true Israelites, no matter what you look like. If you don't look anything like a so-called black, so-called Latino, Hispanic, so-called Native American, so-called Seminole Indian, but your bloodline through your fathers goes back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that makes you an Israelite, no matter what your skin color is or what your facial features, or none of that matters. That's all secondary. Those are generalities. That's typically what the Israelites look like in this day. But a lot of Israelites, now I say a lot, I mean a lot of Israelites don't. Okay? Because it's ultimately truly about bloodlines. Okay? Not skin color. Bloodlines. So that's who the people of our Father Yahweh is. That's why he says, my inheritance unto me is as a speckled bird. The birds around her, the birds round about her are against her, paraphrasing it, okay? Because the nations are likened unto birds, but when he gets to our bird, when he gets to us, the bird that represents the birds, the flock of birds that represents us, we look like all different colors and stuff. Whereas the other nations generally look homogeneous. They generally look the same. We look all different, speckled, variegated. Okay? And that's again due to that genetic mixing because we've been amongst these heathen nations for so long. And but bloodlines are always pure, baby. Bloodlines are impossible to mix. Genetics, mix them all day long. What do genetics impact? Only physical characteristics. For the, essentially, you can say, well, it's also, it impacts, whether you get illnesses and stuff like that. Primarily, that's misdirection from Esau. It's not genetics with a lot of that. I'm not going to say none of that's genetics. I'm not going to say that, but primarily it's not. That's misdirection. A lot of the times, family members get the same type of diseases and whatnot because they're living the same way and eating the same garbage and crap, and have the same similar types of poor lifestyle habits. And then you go see Esau and he said, oh, it's genetics. Okay. And that's to keep you off the trail of what's really causing it. Okay. But bloodlines are always pure. So now we know what genetics impact, physical characteristics, what you look like. What do bloodlines impact or determine? They determine who you are, what nation you are, what race you are. That's determined only by bloodlines. That's why you can have somebody of a certain race, nation, or family looking completely different than what's typical for that race, nation, or family. But they're definitely of that race, nation, or family. And how do you know that? Because they got the same blood flowing through their veins. And how do you know that? Well, just trace it up. Trace it up. Well, all right, are you saying you can trace your lineage and your heritage back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? Back through King David? No, of course not. Okay, we had a great falling away. And this time it's Romans the 8th chapter. The Spirit bear witness with our spirit that we are indeed the sons of the living power. So it's spiritual now. Okay? And so that's the reason why when people come up to the camp, we out there on the highways and hedges, and we're preaching this gospel of the kingdom, and people come up and they don't look like Israelites, we read their spirits first. We engage with them, and we give them the gospel, give them a little bit of the gospel, and we see how they take it. And we're reading their spirit. And that's a lot of things. We're reading how they move, how they talk, how they dressed, how they act, their mannerisms, their body language. And one of the main things we're reading is how they respond to the gospel, how they respond to this truth. And then we're seeing what the Spirit reveals to us about whether or not this person right here might be what we're reading, and we're discerning through the Spirit about what the Spirit may be saying to us about whether or not this person who looks nothing like an Israelite might be what we refer to as an Israelite foreigner. In other words, somebody that don't look like an Israelite, but they're Israelite. Okay, they got the spirit of an Israelite in their body, which if they have the spirit of an Israelite in their body, then that by necessity demands and requires that they have Israelite blood flowing through their veins, although the outer shell looks heathen. Okay, and that's why the scripture speaks of tares, because you have those that look like Israelites, but they're not, because although they have what genetically makes them look like an Israelite, the blood flowing through their veins does not go back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, which means that the spirit that's in that body, that clay vessel, is not an Israelite spirit. It's a heathen spirit. It's just in a house or a tent that looks Israelite. Okay, and that would be a tare. So Joel 2, we're gonna pick up here because this is what's going on right now. This is underway and has been underway for some time. But I will remove far off from you the northern army. The northern army. That's why you got to be careful. Okay, you got to be careful with where it says the north country and the northern, because sometimes when it says the north country and northern, I think the term is the north country, that's talking about Russia, right? And you'll know it from the context because it'll be talking about bringing a coalition of nations against Babylon, which is America. But here, it's not talking about Russia. Here, this northern army is actually talking about the military of America, Babylon the Great, which indeed is being taken over into what is referred to as the Middle East, but actually it is Western Asia or Asia Minor. That's what it truly is. Because Asia is one hell of a big continent. Okay, and you got Asia Minor, also referred to as Western Asia. Those are the two accurate terms. Okay. The Middle East, that's a made-up term that they've been using for their own purposes to kind of like control the narrative and carve up the area for resources and whatnot. You know, they got their purposes, and I don't fully understand their purposes for doing it, but it's something along those lines. Okay, but they're being drawn. The military of America, Babylon the Great. You can see it from the Navy, but not just the Navy. But you got a steady trickle of military, ground forces, Army, Marine. It just all of it. Air Force. You got a steady buildup of military, U.S. military forces over there in what's called the Middle East. Okay, Western Asia. Okay, Asia Minor. Okay, and that's what this is telling you, because this has been going on for some time. All right, and it's this verse right here is going to tell you how it ends, which is near. But I will remove far off from you. The Most High Yahweh is doing this. Okay, what do you think is going to happen? He says he's going to do. What the hell do you think is going to happen? He's telling you what's going to happen. You already know what's going to happen. But I will remove far off from you. It's already happening. It's been going on. Okay, I mean, you know, it's probably going to pick up and wrap up shortly. I mean, you know, there's no probably about that. But what I'm simply saying is, it's been going on, and the pace is just going to pick up in the sense that it's going to be complete soon. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying it kind of clunky. But I will remove far off from you the northern army, that's the military of America, Babylon the Great, and will drive him into a land barren and desolate, also referred to as the valley of Jehoshaphat. We're going to get that over in Joel 3. All right, that's the land barren and desolate, with his face toward the East Sea, which the East Sea is talking about is the Red Sea, not the Red Sea, Salaki, that's coming up next. The Persian Gulf, which is fed by the Euphrates River, which pursuant to Revelation the 16th chapter is drying up, just like the prophecy says. Practically dried up now. No problem for the kings of the East to get across it. But hey, I mean, you know, since it's not quite time yet, Most High will probably dried up some more. But it's already dried up enough. It's already dried up enough. Okay, Most High will probably dried up some more though. Okay, so that's the EC. The Euphrates River, which is not so much dumping into the Persian Gulf these days because it's dry. I mean, maybe just trickling basically. Okay, maybe, right? You look at the Euphrates River, some of the places is real dry. It's like, is there anything getting by here? You know, a little. Okay, like I said, no problem for the military to get across. Because that's why. It tells you like that in Revelation 16. Can't remember what verse. You can go find it. Okay? All right, so the EC is the Persian Gulf, not so much these days, but usually fed by the Persian Gulf. It's fed by the Euphrates River, okay? In transit. Slaki for the misspeaks, okay? So that's the EC. With his face toward the EC. So it's going to be facing the EC, okay? Which, that's the, well, let's finish this though. And his hinder part, so in other words, towards his back, the utmost sea, that's the Red Sea. And so if you go look at a globe or a map, and you find the region of land bounded between the Persian Gulf and on the right, and then the east, the Red Sea on the left, you'll find that that's the region known as primarily identified as the Middle East today. Okay, which Western Asia is larger than that, but that's the region generally identified as the Middle East today. Okay, and then the rest of Western Asia is generally identified as Europe. Okay. All right, but that's what's called the Middle East today, and you got like Saudi Arabia over there, Yemen, Oman, the UAE. I want to say I think Lebanon might be, yeah, I think Lebanon's part of that, and Kuwait. You know, you got those nations over there, Oman. Okay, that's it. That's what it's talking about. And yes, abso-fucking-lutely, America, Babylon the Great's military is building up over there and has been for some time now. Okay. So how is it going to end? How's it going to end? Okay? And his stink shall come up. This isn't talking about they forgot to pack their zest bars of soap. And his ill savor shall come up because he have done great things. This is talking about the same thing it says over in Isaiah the 34th chapter when it says there that the Heavenly Father is going to open up their carcasses and all the stink is going to escape. This is the Heavenly Father's strong speech where he says he's going to slay them and the rotting putrid corpses are going to stink. That's what it means. He's going to kill them all. And their rotting putrid corpses are going to send up a foul stench. That's what this means. And look, it's well underway. Going to be completely fulfilled shortly. Okay? And then it gets into some good news. Let me see here. Yeah, for us, okay? And so let's go on over to Joel 3. And that'll probably, I'm not sure, I don't think we're going to get all of this done. I'm not going to try and be too greedy tonight. It's in transit, long and windy road in the night. You just heard the rumble strip. Okay, so let me not be too greedy. All right, let me get a little bit more. Okay, this is all good. Actually, we opened up with this passage a couple of parts ago. And, specifically we really dug into these verses 9 through 12. I think we kept going. I'm not sure where we stopped. Okay, but let's we're gonna dig in at 11. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war, wake up the mighty men. Okay, Moab got that call, but they're not the only ones. See? All right, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up and beat your plowshares into swords. Hey, Moab was one of the first ones that did that. Hey, a lot of the other nations are doing it too. But Moab was one of the first ones that did it, and they took their plowshares and they beat them into a hell of a lot of swords. In other words, their military has been geared up and swolled up and steroided up so much that they're now a superpower. They're not just a power, they're not just a formidable force, because a regular formidable force, Esau, America, Babylon the Great, they don't really give a fuck about that. If you got a formidable military and it's just a regular basic formidable military, it's a formidable military. They don't care about that. That ain't nothing to them because they're blessed with the sword, and they got their deceptive nature. That's nothing to them. And their weapons, you might have a nice sword, but their sword is bigger and stronger and more powerful, so they don't care about that. Okay, so but China, they beat theirs into a very nice sword. Okay, they got a very, very powerful, formidable military, where their military is powerful enough where America, Babylon the Great, they would have to plan a little bit and consider more things before they just dealt with China. But guess what? If it was just them versus China, they would deal with China, right? But it's not just them versus China. And look, if it wasn't for the fact that the Most High is against them and it was them against China, my money would be on Esau. Okay, all right. I'll be getting my popcorn ready because I want to see this fight, right? But I expect Moab to put up a good fight, but I'll be expecting Esau to win, okay? Because he's blessed with the sword and he has that cunning nature, okay? Going back to his forefather Cain, who was a cunning hunter, a man of the field. The field is a metaphor for the earth, by the way. Anyway, now when it said that about Esau, that was literally the field, but that's a picture metaphorically of the nature of Esau, Edom as a nation. Okay, and so it says here, assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen, all of them, gather yourselves together round about, thither, cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Yahweh. Come down where? It's going to tell you in the next verse. Let the heathen, which ones? Look, man, all ye heathen, you paying attention? Let the heathen, all of them, be wakened. They are. And come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat. Yeah, they got their invitations and they're getting ready. This is getting ready to be fulfilled in its totality. End time biblical prophecy and the end of the world. We interrupt this program due to end time biblical prophecy and the end of the world. Why are you interrupting the program if it isn't here? You don't. We're interrupting the program because why? It's here. For there will I sit, and this is the reason why. Our Father Yahweh is handing out invitations to all the heathen to get your asses down to the valley of Jehoshaphat. Now why? He got something for you there? Hell yeah. Oh, it's going to be a nice gift, right? Wrong. There will I sit to judge, meaning Shabbat, Shabbat, judge all the heathen round about. What's this Shabbat mean? Well, I'm going to get straight to the nitty gritty, right? And I'm going to give you the nail on the head definitions, because it can go into different connotations and different contexts and all that. I'm going to give you the nail on the head definition. Okay? We're going to get straight to it, baby. Okay? Here in one, punish. Yep, that's it. Let's get some more though. Drop down to what's that? A3, to execute judgment. Yep, that's it. We're done. Out. For real though. All right, I gotta pump some gas. Hold on. All right, back to the fun. Heathen, any heathen listening, getting all sensitive. Like, why you laughing at us? Why you laughing at us? Hell yeah, we laughing at you. Hell yeah, I'm laughing at you. None of y'all gave a fuck or a damn about us and our affliction. Okay. You like it says in Revelation 11th chapter, you neither suffered their bodies to be put in graves. Okay, that's all metaphoric for meaning y'all didn't give a damn about us. Y'all just left us to go through everything we went through at your hands and didn't even tell us who we were. Once Esau finished beating it out of us, didn't even tell us who we were and why we were in the condition we were in. I mean, that's the least you could have goddamn done. Okay, at least we can be buried, so to speak. Okay, so y'all didn't give a fuck about us, and this is time. Okay, seeing that it is a righteous. What's the first what's the prefix of that word, or what's the main root of that word? Right, not wrong. Right, meaning correct, meaning good. Okay, seeing then that it is a righteous thing with our Father Yahweh to recompense tribulation, trouble, distress, anguish, misery to them that trouble thee. Yeah, so this is what you get, and I'm happy about it. Okay, don't worry about it. I mean, you be except I sometimes forget to say except for Esau, Edom. Okay, because I'm really focusing on all the heathen as a general, all the heathen in general, and I'm not really focusing on Esau. But when I say what I'm saying next, that does not apply to Esau. They're the ringleader. They get a much greater degree of punishment. So what I'm gonna say next does not apply to Esau, okay? Because they don't get this, okay? They're going through the same punishment to the max, to the greatest degree. But then they don't get what you other heathen nations got coming after it, okay? And what I'm going to say is, hey, don't worry about it, because after you get the ass whooping, after you get the destruction that you got coming to you for 1,000 years, you're going to get mercy then, and you're going to love it. I'm gonna say that again because I know you ain't hearing nothing right now. You just hear it ringing in your ears. You're going to love it after the 1,000 years. Read Proverbs 29:2. Proverbs 29:2. Right, but you got to go through that real rough neighborhood first because you did it. You did the crime, okay? And that's why he's sitting to judge all nations, okay? Let's get a couple quick precepts on that, and we're getting ready to wrap it up. Long windy road at night in the dark. Zechariah 1:14 and 15. I want to say, yes. So the angel that communed with me and said unto me, cry thou, saying, thus saith Yahweh of hosts, I am jealous for Jerusalem and for Zion, to Zion, meaning he's jealous for the nation of Israel. What does it mean for him to be jealous for the nation of Israel? Okay, well, I mean, jealousy can go to a couple of different things, but which one is it talking about here? With a great jealousy. Well, let's slide over to the NLT. The NLT is missing a little bit, but it's pointing you in the right direction, okay? Then the angel said to me, shout this message for all to hear. This is what Yahweh of heaven's army says. My love for Jerusalem. Oh, okay, so now we're getting an idea, okay? And Mount Zion is passionate and strong. Now think about it. If you have a man who's passionate and strong, who has passionate and strong love for his woman, and you harm his woman, or passionate and strong love for his sons and his daughters, and you harm his sons and his daughters, what do you think he's going to do to you? Now, take that and transfer that to the God of all creation. Let's take it to the God of all, the God of everything, the King of the universe. What do you heathen nations think he's going to do to you? Back over to the KJV, because the NLT fucks up the next verse. And I am very sore displeased. So that jealousy goes into his anger for you heathen and what you've done to us, which is going to be brought out plain in the next chapter. And I am very, extremely, greatly sore displeased. Okay? Angry, upset, furious, actually, with the heathen. All of you that are at ease. Yeah, because right now you don't give a damn, but you're about to. For I was but a little displeased. In other words, our Father Yahweh wasn't that upset with you. He don't like y'all. He don't like y'all. He doesn't really give a damn about you. But when he and drop the really, he doesn't give a damn about you. But when he looks at you, he don't like you. You ugly. For real. Isaiah 40, 15, 16, and 17. He didn't make you for himself. He made you for us. Okay? Psalms 2 and 8. Okay? Psalms 2 and 8, 149th Psalm, Revelation 13, 9 and 10, Revelation 2, 26, 27, Obadiah 15, 16, Jeremiah 30 and 16. What else? I'm forgetting a bunch. Isaiah 59, not 59, Isaiah 60 and Isaiah 61, whole chapters. Two of them. Two chapters. Read them back to back. Okay? And a bunch more. 2nd Ezra 6, 54 on down. Okay? Genesis 1 and 1 in the beginning, Revelation 22, 21, all mine with the Apocrypha included. Whole scriptures, all the Bible. At first, he wasn't upset with you that much. He's upset with you because you're doing disgusting shit and he don't like it, right? But only just a little bit because you're heathen and he never gave you the laws and commandments and statutes and he really doesn't care about you. So he's upset with you, but just a little bit. But then you went and you touched I'm not going to say those words because it's coming up next. Then you went and put your hand. This is where you really fucked up. You put your hands on his sons and his daughters. You put your hand on his woman. Okay? The sons and daughters is literal. The woman is metaphoric. Okay? For I have likened the nation of Israel unto a beautiful and comely and delicate woman. Jeremiah 6 and 2. Okay? And you put your hands on the ones that his love is passionate and strong for. That's why. That's why. That's why that's why he's now, currently, right now, very sore displeased. Furious, actually, with the heathen, all of you that are at ease. You did it and you don't even give a fuck. For I was but a little displeased. He wasn't that upset with you. Yes, upset, but just a little bit at first. And they helped forward the affliction. And then you started fucking us up. And that's what really pissed our Father Yahweh off against you. Let's go to Zechariah 2 and 8 to drive that point home a little further. For thus saith, okay, this is to show you that this is an end time biblical prophecy, that verse 7. But let's get straight to the point. Ooh, man, it's brutal. It's brutal. You can keep going. You see the 9, right? But let's get 8. For thus saith Yahweh of hosts, after the glory hath he sent me unto the nations which spoiled you. All you nations had a part in us being spoiled. All you nations had a part, have, current tense, present tense, a part in us being defeated and down, afflicted, and robbed and oppressed and spoiled forevermore. Yes, Esau Edom is the ringleader. Yes, they've done it to the max. Yes, they've done it the worst. By far, yes, but you're guilty too. You participated too. You're also guilty. You're and it's not just guilty by association, it's guilty by association and participation and benefit. All right, so he says, after the glory hath he sent me unto the nations which spoiled you, for he that toucheth you, who is the you? Us, Israel. Okay? Deliver thyself, O Zion. The you is Zion. Okay? For he that toucheth you, Zion, Jerusalem, Israel, us. For he that toucheth you, toucheth the apple of his eye. Everybody's familiar with that figure of speech. It comes from the Bible. Many figures of speeches come from the Bible. Not all of them, of course, but a lot of them do. You wouldn't know it if you don't read the Bible. Okay? And they're popularized by the Bible. Okay? You're the apple of my eye. Well, we're the apple of Yahweh's eye, who you call God. Okay? The nation of Israel. We are the apple of his eye. The so-called blacks, Latinos, Hispanics, Native Americans, Similarians, as well as any and all whose lineage, heritage, and bloodline through their fathers goes back to Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, no matter what you look like. We're the apple of his eye. And you touched us, and that's when you really fucked up. Oh, man, I can't say that strongly enough. You got the Most High, the God of all creation, the King of the universe, the King of terrors, furious with you. And that's why you got to pay. And no way around it. It's already written. It's already spoken. Already done in the spiritual realm. Okay? There's nothing that can happen but for the physical realm to follow the spiritual realm. And that means it's about to be carried out. Okay? Like that Moabite speaker said, this is serious. Yeah, this is deadly serious. Of the highest magnitude. You don't get any deadlier. You don't get any more serious. You don't get any deadlier serious than this. Okay? This is it. To the pinnacle. To the max. Okay? Let me see here. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up there. We'll pick up tomorrow night. Yahweh Tazah. All right. Let me see here. Yeah. And that valley of Jehoshaphat, that's the same location in end time biblical prophecy that was described over there in Joel 2:20. Bounded on the east by the Persian Gulf, fed, not so much these days, by the Euphrates River, and then bounded on the west by the Red Sea. That same region of land where Saudi Arabia takes up the majority of the landmass. But you got all those other nations I ran through them. Oman, UAE, I want to say Kuwait, United, I said that one already, and whatnot. All those nations over there, okay? All right? That's the valley of Jehoshaphat pertaining to end time biblical prophecy. And they're all being drawn there now. And it's just going to do nothing but the pace and the plot is going to do nothing but thicken with each and every passing day. The pace, okay, is going to quicken. It is quickening. It is quickening every day, more and more, okay? So that's the valley of Jehoshaphat, which literally means Yahweh's judgment, okay? And I already showed you what that word judgment, Shaphat, means. Execute judgment, punish, okay? Let me put it to you plain. He's going to kill y'all there, all of you, okay? That's what it means, okay? All right, and what did the dude say? The giant dwarf say? That's what killing you means. Okay, that's what judging you means. Okay, in other words, you ain't figured that out. You didn't know that. That's what judging you means. Okay. Let me see here. I got a rental car, and I just realized that it automatically senses when another vehicle's coming on the opposite side of the road, and it automatically turns off the high beams. Never seen that feature in a car before. Man, you know, Esau's finally deciding to put some of his old-ass technology in vehicles these days. I mean, because this shit's been around, his ability to do this. Hey, that's why Moab's vehicles are far superior to the vehicles that are being sold here in America, Babylon the Great, because Moab doesn't sit on shit. He develops it, perfects it, and he puts it into practice. He puts it into use, okay? Esau puts the shit on a slow trickle because he doesn't want you to have the best technology, but yet instead he wants you to feel like you got technology, so he puts shit on a slow-ass trickle. Meanwhile, the technology that he has is like way the fuck out there, but he has it under wraps. He has it secret, okay? Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up there, and Yahweh Azah will continue. We'll pick back up at probably verse 12. We'll wrap up Joel 3, and we'll head to Revelation 14. Yahweh Azah, it'll be Yahweh Azah. This lesson was edifying, and that will be also. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Before I do, want to give all glory, honor, and praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shabbat, V'chak Wadash, double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone. Much peace, love, and respect to the brothers teaching, pushing the truth out the four corners of the earth. Adonai Azah, this lesson was edifying, encouraging to you, Achim, and any Achwaf that may be listening and or watching. Ayashmi Apana, Azanyam Lashemai Shemai, Lahemu as ears to hear, Kwam Yasharala, Baba Khusha Abad Baba Etha, will call Adawam. Shalom, Shalom, Lahab Acharyam, peace to the elect, Shalom.